Imagine stepping into a metro car that feels less like public transport and more like a quiet lounge sliding under the city. The light is softer, the upholstery looks thicker, there are fewer people, and for once you can hear your own thoughts between stations. For a brief window in urban history, that was a real product. First-class metro travel, a premium tier hidden inside the same trains everyone else used. It sounds strange today, even a little contradictory. Why would a city carve hierarchy into its most democratic space? But the story of first-class metro cars helps explain how transit went from railway habit to civic utility, from stratified compartments to the universal experience most of us know. This is the lost era of first-class metro cars, why it existed, how it worked, why it faded away, and what traces remain in the way we ride now. When cities first built underground and elevated lines, they borrowed not just the technology of the railways, but also their social logic. Long-distance trains had offered multiple classes for decades, with different prices, different fittings, and different expectations of comfort. It felt natural to copy that template into the new urban networks. Some operators labelled entire cars as first class and others as second or third. Some divided a single car with partitions and signage. Some simply marked a few doors and let inspectors and etiquette do the rest. The differences were usually modest. You weren't getting a chandelier and a white-gloved porter. You were buying a slightly nicer seat, a calmer environment, and, most importantly, space. Space was the real luxury. Even when fittings were similar, the higher fare throttled demand just enough to keep the premium cars less crowded at peak times. For a certain group of riders, that was worth paying for. Professionals who disliked jostling through crush loads, travellers with luggage, older commuters who valued a guaranteed seat. Agencies framed it as choice. Riders could trade money for comfort. The extra revenue, in theory, helped keep the system solvent. And for politicians nervous about convincing wealthier citizens to embrace a new underground world of tunnels, smoke, and rattling steel, first class acted like a cultural bridge. The city's elite could try the metro without feeling like they had surrendered status. But class lines inside a fast, high-throughput system created problems from the beginning. The first was friction. If boarding is a science of seconds, door open, passengers flow in, door close, anything that asks people to hesitate or walk farther on the platform slows the entire operation. A premium compartment clustered at one end of the train concentrates demand in a narrow slice of doors. The rest of the platform grows more crowded, dwell times creep up. Staff must monitor signs and enforce rules. And unlike a long-distance train where reservations and conductors control the flow, metros rely on speed and simplicity. Complexity is costly. The second problem was optics. On a busy platform, nothing looks worse than a half-empty premium space sliding past jam-packed cars. Even if the total capacity lost is small, the image is powerful. Empty seats on public equipment that your base fare doesn't let you use. Newspapers noticed. So did riders who felt increasingly that a city service should feel like a shared right, not a gated perk. As urban values shifted toward universality, one network, one map, one fare ladder for distance rather than for status, the idea of paying to cross a threshold within the same train began to feel off-brand. Technology nudged things too. Early undergrounds used paper tickets and human checks, which made in-vehicle class distinctions feasible. As turnstiles and validators spread, agencies standardized the transaction at the gate, not inside the carriage. Fare products became about time and zones, not seat cushions. Meanwhile, rolling stock evolved toward designs that maximize throughput and cleanability. Longitudinal seating, durable materials, open gangways that distribute crowds through the whole train. Those choices are fundamentally at odds with carving out premium rectangles of calm. The more the industry optimized for movement, the less room there was for a walled-off experience, yet the shift did not happen overnight. In some cities, first-class labels lingered as a vestige for years. Riders collected small memories, a gold decal on a door, a slightly thicker moquette pattern, the glance of an inspector who checked your ticket and quietly redirected you. Stories circulated of students who risked a fine for a quiet ride during exams, or of early morning commuters who would step into the premium car before enforcement started for the day. None of this made the product any more efficient. It did make it feel human, the way any rule does once it meets daily life. What finally killed the concept was an accumulation of small costs and a change in civic narrative. The small costs were operational: more staff time to patrol and ticket, more conflict on platforms, more time lost explaining rules to tourists, more complaints about empty seats. The narrative change was cultural. Transit agencies reframed themselves less like railways selling tiers and more like public services delivering standards. When the message shifts from "buy peace" to "we guarantee dignity," the premium door becomes harder to defend. Removing it becomes a symbol of modernization, alongside brighter lighting, clear signage, better ventilation, and cleaner trains. Agencies could say, "We didn't strip luxury, we spread comfort." There were also questions of fairness that grew louder as metros became lifelines for entire urban regions. If a system is funded in part by everyone, why should a piece of it be cordoned off for a supplement paid mostly by those already better off? If crowding is the core pain, why treat relief as an add-on instead of a design target? These questions don't have tidy answers in a spreadsheet, where premium tiers often look lucrative. They do have answers in politics, where the image of half-empty cars drifting past crowded platforms is, to put it gently, a bad look. Even as first class faded inside metros, its spirit reappeared elsewhere. On regional and commuter services that run longer distances at higher speeds, premium offerings can work without gumming up the platform. Reserved seats, quiet coaches, and subscription upgrades are easier to enforce and less disruptive when stops are spaced farther apart and trains are not turning over their entire passenger load every 2 minutes. Separate airport express lines are another channel: a distinct brand, distinct rolling stock, distinct fare, and separate platforms. The premium choice shifts from a door on the same train to an entirely different service. That's cleaner to operate and clearer to sell. Inside metro systems, a different kind of differentiation took hold, functional rather than fiscal. Instead of saying, "pay more to sit here," agencies began to say, "we set aside space for needs." Areas for wheelchairs and strollers, policies about quiet behaviour rather than paid quiet space, signage that guides crowding without attaching a surcharge, dedicated cars for safety in certain contexts and times. All of these segment the environment without stratifying by wealth. The enforcement relies more on norms and staff presence than on ticket tiers. The goal is dignity at scale, not privilege inside the same perimeter. If you look closely at modern interiors, you can still see design choices that answer the old first-class promise in democratic ways. Lighting is bright but not harsh to reduce fatigue. Materials are robust to keep surfaces clean and familiar. Handholds and poles are more numerous and better placed, so standing feels stable. Open gangways and wide doors let air and people flow, lowering stress. Announcements are standardized and accessible. Frequencies are boosted on the busiest corridors to shave minutes off waits and reduce platform crowding. Each of those decisions chips away at the need to buy calm, because calm is baked into the baseline. Could first-class metro cars return as a digital product, a subscription that unlocks a quiet coach during peak hours, a light above the door that turns green if your phone says you've paid? Technically, yes. Practically, every incentive still points the other way. The boarding friction would be real, the enforcement theatre would be constant, the optics would be combustible, and the ridership benefits of using every square metre to absorb demand are too valuable to abandon. If the future brings premium choices, they are more likely to be new services layered onto the network than velvet ropes inside the same train. The nostalgia remains understandable. In an age of noise and hurry, a little oasis is alluring. Some riders did find genuine relief in spaces that were quieter and less crowded. The lesson from their experience is not to resurrect a higher fare, it's to design the standard car so that relief is common. Better acoustics, smoother acceleration, consistent climate control, clear information, frequent service. The era of first class tried to monetize those qualities. The modern era tries to universalize them. So the next time you wait on a platform and watch a long uniform train arrive, no gold decals, no special doors, just a single promise delivered 12 times per minute. Remember that the metro wasn't always this cohesive. There was a time when two versions of the city glided through the same tunnel. One cost more and offered a bit of breathing room, the other moved the masses. We closed that gap, not by ignoring comfort, but by redesigning it as a right. The lost era of first-class metro cars is really a story about the maturation of public space, from stratified compartments to a shared standard, from selling serenity to engineering it for everyone. And in that evolution, the metro became what it was meant to be all along, a fast, legible, collective machine that takes us where we need to go and lets the city above do the rest.